Real Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Shane Gilstone, and my co-host, George from the UK. He's with Flex Success. I'm from Rock Solid Coaching. Real Talk Podcast. What we talk about here is evidential shit, real shit, the taboo shit you might not want to talk about with your friends, family, or whoever, or even ask a question of your coach. And that's what we're here to talk about. Guys, would like you to please share this with your friends and family, whoever. It's the only way to get this out and about. And look, we're not going to dive into what we've been doing of late, because what I've noticed in the stats is that we talk about what we've been doing and what we're up to and that, and you guys sort of drop off. So we'll cut that away. You don't like it, so. But from the conversation we're having before this, guys, don't skip leg day, all right? Otherwise, George says you'll turn out like him, or legs and big back.
Yeah, it's harder to grow them back once the case is done than just start from the beginning training them. But anyway, we'll be jumping into today, Shane. I think it's very relevant to the time of year already.
Oh, definitely. So, time of the year, New Year's has been and gone. So everyone's made those New Year's resolutions, whether they're a fitness resolution or if they're a self-care resolution or whatever they may be. But we're specifically targeted here on physique coaching. This is more around the Gen Pop space, to be honest, because as we know, George, like our physique competitors, they're usually pretty switched on and know what they're doing.
Yeah, you'd think so.
You'd think so. But the reason we're going to talk about like why they fail, team. There's from our experience, there's many different reasons. Sometimes there's those unrealistic goals being put in place, or those you're not celebrating the goals, or whatever they may be. That they start these resolutions and bang, fall off the wagon, or however it happens, eh?
Yeah, it's nice. I think that the lead up to Christmas is a really easy time to make big decisions. Like, I'm sorry, lead up through Christmas. Like, it's a time of year where usually you take a step back, you kind of slow down a bit, work sort of drops off in most careers, and time for social time with family. You start to make a few more allowances in the day to day with your normal nutrition, training, and stuff. You might have a couple of more rest days, you might drop to maintenance, and it gives you a lot more time to think and reflect. And it's a great time to reflect on the year just gone, which usually leads to you kicking in either with some positivity or negativity that either way, whichever direction it's gone, leads to some essence of motivation and drive to kind of new year come around. I've got to sort some shit out. I've got to put some things in place. So it's easy at the start of the year or kind of finish point of the last one to have a lot of high motivation. But like the hard thing I think I see is carrying that consistently across the rest of the year. As soon as you get back into your normal working routine and you get back to 9 to 5 job and back into training a bit more, life starts to get a bit stressful, a bit boring again. It's hard to keep that motivation rolling. Very easy to generate on the lead up.
Yeah, I screen this as to make it part of your day-to-day life, not make it a goal that, for 8 weeks, I'm going to do this. Why 8 weeks? Or something I heard last year, and it's the first time hearing this, was that this individual was basically planned to drink like an Irishman and eat like a pig because their New Year's resolution was going to be to get fit. So they used the New Year's resolution as an excuse to eat like a slob because the New Year's resolution's coming. That one spun me out. So you've made this choice that I'm going to be an absolute pig because I'm going to do this as my New Year's resolution.
I see the logic, but it's just not. It's not really justified. Like, fuck, I'm gonna stop smoking, so I'm gonna smoke 3 packs a day for the last week before I quit. Like, you're setting yourself up for failure in doing that. I think again, another reason why the lead up to the new year, Christmas lead up to New Year, is also a problem because there's usually a lot of overconsumption and overfeeding, drinking. There's a lot of things that happen. And as you know, from a physique development standpoint, there's one way you can really trigger an appetite response and make things worse for yourself in a deficit is if you binge eat or overconsume. It's a lot harder on the symptoms of appetite stimulation the following 2 days from that, whether physiological or psychological. You're usually really fucking hungry after you just binge ate or overfed. Usually when you have a high day, the day after dropping back to your low day food, it's always so novel. It feels way harder the day after a high day than it typically does in the days leading up to the high. It's like doing that mentality of, I'm going to get it all done now and finish it all off. You're just spiking your internal response to that stimulus before then removing it.
I think it's just, they're so food focused beforehand. So it's food, drinking. Then they come New Year's Day. No, it's all gone.
Yeah.
And you got those habits now. You've been eating this. So next thing you probably still got cookies, you still got chocolate, you still got junk in the cupboard because you're not going to eat it all. We got all the shit in there. So because you're used to eating all that, it comes day one. What happens day two? Oh, I'm gonna have a few biscuits. The next thing you've just fucking devoured a whole pack of Tim Tams.
Nothing wrong with devouring a whole pack of Tim Tams.
Well, how are those donuts the other day?
Oh, now see, this is what I mean about having balance and moderation here, right? Now you probably think the old George would have bought 6 donuts and eaten all 6, but as I've grown and matured in my understanding of moderation, me and Zoe bought 3 and we split them half and half, and wasn't really too like overexcited. They were fucking good, don't get me wrong, but just we controlled the portion size. I still had it, I still got to enjoy the thing, but it kept it trickling over.
I love the post. Like everyone listening, everyone watching, it's his partner Zoe put up this story on Instagram and had these donuts and said calories don't count on a Sunday or something or like that. And then this cheeky bearded grin came in. Fuck, I laughed at that. But okay, I think one of the first one thing is why these New Year's resolutions fail is unrealistic expectations. So they set unrealistic goals, and the goal might be, which I really hate this one, is lose. I want to lose 30 kilos. Set this goal of losing 30 kilos. So that expectation, but they want that within a short period of time.
Mm-hmm.
So when they don't hit that within a short period of time, and typically people say they want to lose it within 8 weeks or something ludicrous like that. So this unrealistic goal, they don't make goal, they actually probably revert and actually go backwards a little bit and put a bit of weight on at the same time, and then it's a failure.
Well, there was some good statistics done on fat loss in more sustainable versus more aggressive approaches. And they saw that in the more sustainable approach, that it was easier for clients and people in the study or patients in the study to keep the weight off long term. And those that did the typical kind of crash dieting approach, rapid fat loss, saw a higher chance of rebound the other side. So, just under that context alone, making these really big, aggressive, short-term goals is, it might sound really like arousing on the surface and kind of attractive. Gosh, shit, you can. You know what? You could probably drop, I don't know, 5 to 10 kilo in a week if you starved yourself. But guess what? The other side of it, you're going to be met with a whole heap of backlash. Setting these goals up appropriately from a time perspective is going to lead to longer term better results. And you can kind of take that conversation another step further into like how you periodize the goal itself. Like, what are you setting up? Like, if you know the goal is big and you need to climb a mountain, well, let's focus on one step at a time rather than how we get from 0 to 100 straight away. Like, let's work on the stages of the mountain. Let's break the mountain down into like 5 or 6 different sections of what do you need to do in this time frame to here to here to here to here to here to here. Short, medium, long-term goals that lead to your big goal. And that way it makes it micromanageable. And if it's micromanageable, you get little wins of motivation because you're ticking your boxes. And every time you tick a box, that's a positive reinforcement of the actions you're taking. So it reinstills this, not necessarily motivation, but habit building. And what we want to do is use motivation to kind of give us the push off the start line. And then with our daily habits and our small, micro habits throughout the days, weeks, or months, kind of use that as our trickle feature to build into the long-term goal.
I talk about breaking it down, and I talk about this a lot, even with all my clients, my prep clients or my Gen Pop clients, is celebrating those little wins.
Yeah.
Now, when I say celebrate, doesn't mean go out. You've lost half a kilo. Let's go out to order a 400-gram rump steak and chips and gravy. But celebrate that by different means of telling your partner, your significant other, treating yourself to a massage or something like that. Something to just celebrate it, acknowledge it, you've made that little win, because a bunch of little wins equals a big win.
And I know we just turned it back into physique development there, but if like say it's a business goal, going out and having the steak, the chips, the meal out, if it's not something that directly opposes the goal itself, and that brings you some fulfillment and some reward. Again, it's about positive reinforcement again on the action. Like if you can reward yourself in some degree, if you're into physique development, maybe going out and eating a big fucking meal probably is a bit counterintuitive to the goal. But like Shane said, a massage, something that brings you some reward, or even just sitting down and having that conversation with your partner, voicing the fact that you're proud of yourself, pat on the back. I know it sounds patronizing, but we need positive reinforcement and affirmment to keep things traveling forwards. If you're not getting any kind of positivity from the goals you're chasing, what's the point in doing them?
Well, talk about the goal. I think the next one is the lack of specificity. So what I mean by that is, people say, I've got a new goal. I want to get fit. or
I
the
was
new
thinking
goal
about
is
this in my head.
I want to exercise more, or there's nothing specific about it. So if it's not measurable, then how are you going to get tangible results from it and know what you're achieving and what you're winning on?
It's not measurable. It's not manageable.
Yes, yes, I can love that saying. Not measurable, but manageable. So exactly that. Not having specific goal targets, I think, is a big one
Yeah.
too. Not being so
Well,
specific with it.
the fitness one was exactly what went through my head on the example as we was thinking about this. A lot of people say they want to get fit, but what does fit look like? Is fit an
Yeah,
aesthetic goal? Is fit an internal health goal? Are we thinking about your cardiovascular fitness? Like it can be, it's so broad, right? And then with this broad umbrella, it leaves so much for chance. There's no direction. And if there's no direction, then how are you taking steps forwards? You're probably just going to end up walking around in circles. So, the goal could be to get fit, and that could be the broad umbrella term you're meaning is just like an overview. I want to improve my fitness and look better, feel better, better mental health, all the things that come with fitness. Cool. But that's the long, big overview. Like we come back to breaking it down. You need to be able to break that thing. Nothing wrong with using it as the goal, but break that thing down into something you can aim for as targets. Because again, if it's not measurable, it's not manageable, you're going to start spinning your wheels and go in circles or not go anywhere.
yeah, 100%. I think the next one is poor planning.
Yes.
It's a big one,
Yes.
and especially with these New Year's resolutions, and sticking on the fitness, um, the subject is that you come up for Christmas, you've had all your Christmas ham, your food, you've been drinking, New Year's Eve or whatever. Come New Year's Day, bang, I'm doing it, but they've made no planning for it. So they've got no nutrition plans, they've got no training programs. They might even have any active wear that's fitting them because they're too overweight. Who knows? But there's been no planning. So that failure to schedule and prioritize the fitness goals with the proper protocols just leads to failure. If you've got no plan, it's like driving somewhere you've never been before and not having a map.
Yeah.
How are you
Yeah.
gonna get there?
Bang on. Yeah, exactly. What instinct?
Yeah, he's going to
Just
follow the
hope.
fucking your ancestral fucking ways of getting there, and you're using your Indian tricks. Who knows?
Oh man, preparing like failing to prepare is preparing to fail. Exactly that, mate. I think too many people with the New Year's resolutions, they spit them out, perhaps drunkenly inebriated over the new year themselves, just some random big
Yeah,
thing thinking of. But there needs to be this thought process leading up to it of getting measures in play, countermeasures, everything set up that's going to lead to the environment of success. You've got to set up the environment or your mindset or the environment inside your head for the goal at hand before you just embark on the journey. If you don't prepare for it, like prep's a great example of this. We need to do the pre-prep phase before we jump into a prep. Why? Because it's stupid to just go straight from fat loss to deficit to the degree that we're going to push on prep. There's other variables like drugs that are in play high in the off season. We've got to let them chill and settle down, because if we just carry on leaving everything turn up 100,000%, you're just going to run into health problems, consequences, stress, training fatigue. Let's go into prep where we're about to accumulate loads of stress again. We got to wash off stress first and have a time where we just pre-prep, maintenance, chill, relax, drop everything back down to first gear, steady ourselves before we ramp it back up to six again. We're preparing ourselves for the goal ahead. You've got to have the pre-plan in place. You've got to have whatever variables need to be addressed for whatever that goal is, business, pleasure, fitness, have them locked in, and then use that as the time to prepare and structure everything moving forwards.
right. The next one on my list, there's a few to get through here. I said to George before we started this podcast, I started writing the notes for this podcast. I end up with almost 10 bloody excuses that people use or failures. And it's just because I'm writing this from my experience. But no accountability.
Yes.
What's your thoughts on that one?
Accountability can look very different based on. I was looking quite a lot into like personality types recently with flex and work and stuff, and I forget the last name of the lady. Her name's Greta. I can't remember her last name. I'll have to send you over to put in the notes. But she broke these four people or four kind of personality types into four tendencies. So you got the upholder, the obliger, the rebel, and the questioner. And there's like a different tendency that has a different motto for it, and it depends on how you approach a personality type. And obviously, there's loads of like crosses over on the pie chart and overlaps, and but when you break it down to its core, we would each have one that's kind of dominant in us. And it's quite an interesting thing to look into, right? But when it comes to kind of upholding of expectations and things like this that are necessary to success within your goals, I think it's quite important from the accountability side of things to understand what personality type you are. Like, how do you respond to accountability? Because that kind of comes back into your personality type. For me, example, I'm someone that needs to be held accountable because when someone is counting on me, it makes me keep on top of my bullshit. But if I'm just left to my own internal things, it drops off. It does because my priorities are with other people and other things, but my own stuff always seems to take a back burner and drops off. And if you're maybe like a rebel, you've got a problem with all sorts of accountability in any case, and you don't like being told what to do, and you have a hard time with yourself. There's loads of ways you can break it down, but it's an interesting kind of thing to understand your psychology and how you would then respond to accountability. But most people tend to fall into the obliger, same as me, which is the person who requires some accountability to keep them on top of their stuff. That's just where most of the population tend to kind of fall into on the averages. And with that in mind, having a thing, something, someone, or an internal thing that keeps you accountable is important, right? Having that looming overview, it gives you a bit more. I don't want to say the word pressure because it sounds negative, but there is a responsibility to uphold to the external person. So, like coaching, for example, you struggle to get in shape for a bodybuilding comp yourself, guess what? You need a coach, not just because of the education and the knowledge to get you there, but also so that every week you fucking check in, you are accounted for, you know you have got to tick off. And if you don't tick them off, you're letting someone down, you're paying for a service you're then not using, and you're not going to get to your goal. But that keeps you accountable and keeps you locked in to a degree.
I definitely think, like talking about those different personality types, I definitely think that I'll be an obliger. That I don't need 100% accountability, but I like having the accountability there at the same time. So again, why I have a coach and why I have you as a coach too is that like I know what I need to do and how to do it, but at the same time, as you said before, that if I'm not responsible to someone or something, is how do I come back and
Does that ever drop off though? Your intrinsic stuff, so your intrinsic goals. If you've got shit you know you need to do for you without anyone else telling you, do you do it?
Not 100%, no.
Maybe there's some slight tendencies towards obliger, but again, I'd probably, from my understanding of you, Shane, what I've seen you do within business without having someone tell you what to do and everything else, I'd probably say you're probably more of the upholder at the top of the pile, who most of the time is good at meeting internal expectations of yourself and is also good at meeting external expectations of yourself. There's a good overlap between these two here, and it usually just comes back. I always say to people, I'm incredibly lazy. My personality type is I'm fucking lazy. I will do anything for everyone, but when it comes to my own shit, man, I'm just quite happy plodding along. I could happily fuck off to a cabin in the woods and live there for the rest of my life, peaceful, do nothing. But it screams to that personality type.
I was thinking like if there's people out there with no accountability, so they make these goals out, no accountability to someone. So then if there's no accountability, there is potentially no consequences, potentially. Because a lot of people don't see their own consequence. Like, okay, yes, they're not sticking to their goals, not sticking to, again, keep the same subject as a fitness goal. So when we say a fitness goal, if you want to lose 10 kilos, you've gained weight. Well, then, okay, you're not accountable to anyone except for yourself. And a lot of people don't actually keep themselves accountable and have any consequences for themselves. Like, well, if you've gone backwards in your journey, are you going to rouse on yourself? No, you're not.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I will tell myself I'm a shit cunt, but it won't do anything about it.
well, yeah. So then there's still no consequences there, is there? So there's no consequences. How do you learn from it? How do you keep on moving forward? So again, I think that's what we're going to talk about before, is that having that coach there keeps that accountability set point, because potentially there is a consequence from there if you're not upholding and staying true to the plan.
So, yeah, 100%.
Next one is fucking impatience, and I say that with a really emphasis fuck at the start of it, because I see it constantly with people. And I see it with prep clients, I see it with Gen Pop clients, I see it all the time. Is that, again, we talk about those unrealistic goals at the start. You know, people saying, hey, I want to lose 30 kilos, and they expect to lose that within 8 weeks. Now, I also think that there is a little bit of influence out there from social media and other influencers of different fucking fad diets and juice diets and lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks and all that sort of shit. Now, we know, because we've talked about this before, is that those lose 10 kilos in 10 weeks isn't fat loss. There's a percentage that will be fat loss, but it's predominantly fucking fluid. All right. But the impatience to lose it, or even if we're talking about, a New Year's resolution goal of I want to be able to bench press 150 kilos. This is probably someone who's going to be a newbie to the gym. All right. So the the actual experience in the gym is minimal. They haven't lifted before. Their bench is probably going to be something around 60 kilos, maybe. But they want to do 150. But yet they want that goal to do it within 8 weeks, 10 weeks. And when they don't reach that goal, because it's impatient, they're failed. Can't work, you can't do it.
I think there's a lot of different vectors to the impatience thing. No, it could be just down to personality. Some people are just really impatient. I think there's one problem within our society that's everything is click and fucking collect. It's next day, it's Amazon delivery. Everyone expects prime in life now. Like prime delivery is how you expect life. I get annoyed when it takes longer than a millisecond for an internet browser thing to load up on a website because we live in 2024, right? I've got 5G. Why is this taking so long? Impatience, because the way the world's programmed to be fucking click of the finger all the time. That's a problem when that seeps back into your own personal goals. But there's also another context that we can't really change that or control that personally by trying to change the perspective and narrative. But I don't think that's going to happen. But when we look at the other vectors that we spoke about, like education, that's one reason why people can be impatient because they don't actually have a clue about anything to do with the goal they're trying to achieve. How long does it actually take to achieve fat loss? How long does it actually achieve to gain strength? How long does it actually take to achieve muscle growth? Well, if you had or spent longer than 2 seconds listening to some bullshit TikTok influencer telling you can do it in 3 weeks or 5 weeks, and you actually dug into the research or had someone who knew what they were talking about educate you, you would suddenly see, oh fuck, this goal that I thought was 6 weeks is more like 6 months or 6 years away. Education probably is going to change the impatient factor a little bit, or at least give people the real context that, hey, you might be impatient and I would love to be Ronnie Coleman tomorrow, but it ain't going to happen. There's also the context of setting the realistic expectation up again, and that can lead you to being impatient. And if you, I guess they kind of all trickle feed into each other here, where it's like if you're not educated enough, you'll then set up unrealistic expectations that lead to being impatient, that all lead to net failure eventually. So the impatience one can kind of be stemmed from all of these factors and variables, but the kind of it all changes with it could become back to accountability again. Like having someone who's educated who can guide you in this process is going to teach you how this process happens, what happens during, why it's going to take X, Y, Z time. Coming back to like being definitive in your goals. Cool. Well, you said you wanted to lose 30 kilo. What the fuck is 30 kilo? You could drop 30 kilo on your toe and lose it. You just lost it out of your hand. You know, way less than 30 kilo. Are you talking about actual weight on the scale? Are we talking about 30 kilo of body fat off? Or what are we dealing here? Because that's very different depending on what you're trying to achieve. So impatience, we need to address accountability. We also need to address education, and we also need to address realistic expectation, so that the impatience can still be impatient, but you now know it doesn't matter how impatient I am or how quickly I want this, it's now this far away rather than here.
You know, I'm really starting to feel that we should have finished on impatience because you've just wrapped up the podcast with that because it's linked back to everything else we've just talked about, hasn't it? It's gone back about the unrealistic goals, the poor planning, the accountability. It's just linked back to everything, hasn't it?
The point of the message was, guys, don't be impatient.
I love it.
What were the other points?
All right, we'll keep on going, but we've definitely got more to go through. The all or nothing mentality. Putting that, we're going all in, we're doing it all. And I had a good example is I had a new starter come on board literally like on the 2nd of January this year. But I provided her, she wanted to come on the New Year. This was her New Year's resolution. We had to also set some boundaries on what her expectations were, kind of back to the impatience as well. So I actually gave her training programs about 2 weeks before the New Year's Day, so that she could have a look at it. And I asked her, and I said, look, start training now. Just do a couple of days here and there, because I don't want you to come January 1st or January 2nd and to go bang straight into it. Because I knew her mindset was, I need to do this. So I need to do training. I need to do nutrition. I need to get more sleep. I need to get my steps up. I need to get my water. So it was just all of it in one hit. Now we know we bring all that different, all those approaches in one hit. It's an overload, and it's too much change too quick. And I think there's a lot of humans these days with all that sort of change that's so quick. It's just we can't handle it. We don't like it. Our body doesn't like it. It's too much stress in the body. So then I gave her nutrition plans. after New Year's Day. And again, she wanted to go full hog into it, start doing all this. I said, look, we can do your meal prep. We can start doing your planning for that and start doing your prep throughout the week. Let's do those little things. I said, but I don't want you to start doing that 100% mentality. I said, if we can hit a 75, 80% compliance over the week, we'll start off small and then work our way up. So now here we are, we're 4 weeks later. She's still making good little goals. She's celebrating those good little goals. And she hasn't had to do that all that change in one hit and make such a significant change. And again, that's all those changes as well. She's also married with 2 kids, so that change would have had a huge effect on everyone in that household as well.
100%. 100%.
Again, it's that all or nothing mentality. It's just too much for everyone, and they just again, I think I like to plan as well because they come into all these different changes. They don't plan for it, and then their mindset is, "Fuck, I'm failing because I want to do all this and it's not happening."
The all or mindset is all or nothing mindset is dangerous. It is. I've been caught in it myself many a times throughout the years, and it takes. I think there's a lot of bodybuilders like when we look at like camp mentality of training to failure, reps and reserve, or bodybuilders that don't believe in cables and only barbells and only doing this one way and going all in 100%, give everything, no off-plan meals, no macro tracking, no enjoyment. Well, 100% is great, and you'll get 100% progression for all of about 4, 5, 6, 8, maybe 10 weeks, maybe 12. Hell, if you can dig in with willpower, you might make it a whole goddamn year. But sooner or later, you will reach burnout. Burnout is different for every person. Some people can live more unbalanced than others, and that word and that phrase "balance" that gets thrown around in our industry is a bit of a fucker because it's a sliding scale rather than this one thing. And one person's balance is another person's unbalanced, and vice versa. If someone tried to live my life, they'd probably be cooked. I mean, half the time I'm nearly cooked, but it is what it is. But again, the all or nothing mentality, actually, if you look at the long term and you was to go, all right, well, across the year as a Gen Pop person, I commit to my fitness goals 4 to 6 weeks at a time, and then I have 2 weeks where I blow out at least half my progress. You extrapolate that across the year, and you look at how many gains you make and how much progress you make. It's probably not going too far. But if you take Joe Bloggs, the other example, who's 75% all year, their gains and their progress are far greater.
Yep.
It's consistently doing what you can long term. It's not just about giving 100% straight out the gate. And the problem is social media again. You see all these people that either look fucking great all year round because they're genetically blessed, they're either juiced up to the nines and not telling anyone about it or being honest, or they're looking at these top bodybuilders that again are genetic freaks that also have all of the work ethic and work rate of the elite athlete. They're looking at these people as if it's achievable, and then they're thinking that that's how they've got to do it. It's so far from the case. It's so far from the case. The all or nothing mentality leads to net less result than 75, 80%. Because if that's all you can give sustainably, guess what? That is your all or nothing. 75% is your 100%. Don't compare that to someone else's 100%.
I'm trying to remember. So Logan Robson's old coach.
Yeah.
Before he came across to you guys, I can't remember his name. Oh, for the life of me. But his mentality was the all-in approach, especially for a comp prep too. And even in one of his podcasts, I watched one of his podcasts he had, that he just believes that people don't need refeeds. They're absolutely waste of time. Now, yes, from the whole nutrition point of view, and potentially refeeding the body, replenishing all your stores, and that we know after a refeed day within 24 hours that it's all gone anyway, right? So I understand that, but if you look at that more from a mental aspect and a psychological aspect, those refeeds are fucking invaluable sometimes. But again,
and that kind of person.
Logan even said that was one of his hardest preps. But again, Logan did get his pro card out of it.
Yep. And I do believe that when you cross into athletes and we're talking about top end individuals chasing pro cards, chasing Olympic qualification, you're going to live a more unbalanced lifestyle. You want the higher reward. Guess what? It takes a bit more to get it. I will never discredit that. And I'll never say to anyone that, bodybuilding can be achieved with balance, because it can't. To the top extremity, not to what normal people justify balance, right? You have to be very, very selfish to do what they do at the top to get to the top, and that's just evident by the fucking huge reward that it is at the top of the field. Now, Does that mean that you have to do a prep with no refeeds? No. Does it mean that someone might have to do a prep with no refeeds to get in the condition required? Probably. Yeah,
Hmm.
maybe. I'd probably be one of those people with how fucking slow it takes me to pull off fat loss, even though I'm busting everything. I'm probably one of those individuals. But psychologically, I'd rather take a longer prep with more refeeds to keep my mental fresh than just do the prep in the first place with none there. There's a different way to skin a cat for every person, but bodybuilding's a bit different. The inherent reward at the end requires more risk and sacrifice. But that fucking refeed conversation always bugs me, man. Because yes, data tells us one thing. Yes, we know that it's not doing anything realistically, physiologically, bar filling a bit of glycogen for a short window of time before it's gone again in the deficit. But the effect it can have on this when you give an individual who's feeling isolated from their partner, who's feeling isolated from his family, we've given you a refeed, we've given you time to just sit with the family and eat a goddamn meal with your kids. You're just present. Like that will probably carry more of a stress relief than you and a better yield on their look from a stress response than digging them out for more condition.
100%. Totally agree there, man. 100%. Like I said, the mental aspect on it is invaluable.
Yeah. But Genpot people, you don't have to do that shit.
No,
You don't have to
100%
push that.
don't. As
You
you
should.
said before, that 75% consistency over 24 months is going to yield you more results than that all-in approach for a few months.
Yep. Yeah.
Now, going from the all-in approach, they have no flexibility in the plan is another failure point.
Mm-hmm.
But when I say no flexibility, so things come up, sickness, holiday trips, birthdays, Easter, all this sort of jazz. Right. So again, with that all-in approach, you can't celebrate those. So then you're now absent from let's call it life. So those doing those life enjoyable things. So you're absent from there. Then you get sick, and in your mindset, and you remember that we've talked about this before about that all-in approach where people like they're sick, they'll still train. So very advantageous for what they're trying to do. Right. So having that no flexibility, that all-in approach, and the flexibility, you start hating what you're doing. You're not enjoying what you're doing. And if you hate it and don't enjoy it, you don't want to do it. So you pull the pin and pull out. You're like, nah, can't do it. It's not working.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it wasn't the thing you're trying to achieve that was the problem. It was just the setup of trying to achieve it that was wrong.
Yep.
It was doable. It was very achievable, but the way you approached it was wrong for you. Not necessarily for everyone, but for you personally, how you should be approaching it should have been taken differently, hence why you didn't make it. Yeah, but we need flexibility. And if you can't, I think we need to be able to be fluid. I think as human beings, we need to understand that we actually have we've created an environment of control with everything in our day-to-day life. The actual existence of a human being is utter fucking pure chaos, realistically. Nothing's predictable, realistically. Nothing's that controllable. We just create the parameters of control to make us feel better in here. We need to be able to be fluid. We need to be able to ebb and flow and move. And I have this conversation with people in contest prep, and they go, why the fuck am I prepping for 24 weeks? It takes me 16 weeks to get in condition. I go, yeah, what happens when you get COVID for 2 weeks? What happens when your missus is ill for a week and you've got to look after the kids? What happens? You just start throwing these examples at them, and they go, "Oh yeah, well that was the reason my fucking prep failed in the past." And I go, "Yeah, well now you're not only going to be 3 weeks early, but you're also going to have the luxury that if this happens, it doesn't fuck up the goal. We got the time to be flexible, manipulate, maneuver. Flexibility and being able to be flexible is a skill. Not a lot of people can do it. They don't like it because it sounds like it's more work. It does. Starting a prep at 24 weeks out instead of 20 weeks out, or 18 weeks out, or 60, whatever it is. It sounds harder, but it's not. It's a luxury. It gives you more freedom.
That's why I love doing longer preps. Exactly that freedom, flexibility, and like to be fluid. The shit does come up, and we've all been talking about for these guys. We've all had different things come up. I've had some major things come up. I've had to adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
Right. But you have that flexibility. Like I said, if you're doing something short term, you've made short term goals. There's no flexibility in it. Something comes up, bang, your goal's out the window. It's no more achievable. As a goal, you pull the pin, you fucking pull out. You're done.
Yeah. 100%.
The last one to finish off is the a failure to address underlying issues. Now, underlying issues could be some sort of mental condition, emotional eating is a big one, I think.
Yep.
A lot of people use that New Year's resolution. They've been emotionally eating beforehand for different scenarios and what have they. They come into this New Year's resolution. They still haven't addressed the underlying issue. They're going to try for this new goal, this new plan, this new resolution, but they haven't specifically targeted down and locked down what was affecting them beforehand.
100%. Now, but there's loads of comments around. I hate to keep turning this back to bodybuilding when it is more so a gen pop conversation, but there's always issues within bodybuilding where people say that it kind of creates eating disorders, and I've seen people develop bad relationships with themselves and with food because of bodybuilding, because of the all or nothing mentality. That usually yields to these problems arising, or the individual actually had them prior to bodybuilding, and bodybuilding looked like a very cool way to mask their erratic and sporadic eating disordered pattern, like a binge eating disorder, anorexia. Well, hell yeah, look, it's very easy to justify binge eating when you're in the off season and your food's at 5k calories, because it doesn't make a difference if you go and have an off-plan meal when you eat 2 fucking pizzas that are about 1,500 calorie a pop, and you've eaten 3,000 calories in one serving and feel like shit, bloated and horrible. It's triggered your mental want to keep binge eating, but it's okay because it works in with your calories. Same way of like anorexia and chronic undereating and things like that, in the especially we see this quite a lot in the female space, but it does translate to the male. Always does in some cases.
The female space is a big one.
You see this a lot where girls are just so used to, in the past, like chronically undereating and always staying like anorexic. Well, bikini club competing, that's a really cool way to mask that. These girls that are pushing down to 1,200, 900, 800 calories. You can spot them a mile off when you talk to them, because they go, "Oh yeah, I haven't had a menstrual cycle in about like 8 years." It's like, what, before bodybuilding? Oh yeah, so this was a problem way before. You've just this has been your way to mask the issue. I know we've focused on like eating disorders and stuff like that, but that when the problems are there, this comes back to, again, setting yourself up in the total environment, whether internal environment or external environment, for success. And you're setting yourself up for long-term or short-term or medium-term failure, wherever that case breaks for you. So even like the addressing prior issues comes back to an internal and external environment design thing. You need to make sure you're in the right position to actually take on the goal you're trying to achieve. And that honestly takes a lot of self-talk and sometimes hard conversations. It really does. There's been a couple of bodybuilders I've spoken to over the time, female male space, where they wanted to jump into bodybuilding, and you get like 4 weeks into it, and I start to spot red flags, and I say, no, hey, look, I'm not comfortable or ethical now doing this, because I know what happens from here. Like, these haven't been addressed. You told me you were this, you've obviously, I don't know what happens in past lives. I can ask them, but people choose what they tell. Sometimes people lie, sometimes people hide the truth. Like, there is times you have to have them hard conversations, but if you don't set yourself up, or you're not honest with yourself and have them hard conversations, you're leading to failure. Essentially, you're going to constantly end up failing your goals, and you're going to have a horrible relationship with them.
Well, that's all from my notes I've got for those. You got anything else to add, you reckon?
If you're looking into how to take on goals and how to tackle your goals, just as an overview in life, and you want some piece of resource or something that's going to offer you something that can help here outside of talking to professionals, there is a book by James Clear called Atomic Habits. And he has done some monumental work in breaking down success in achieving goals down to he breaks everything down to every single long-term goal, whatever the hell it is, however far away it is. You can do stuff today that is a small 1% micromanageable task that is going to help you to that long-term goal. And when you start focusing and you are able to break them goals right down to the micromanageable, if you can get 1% better every day of the year, and this is a quote from the book, that's a 365% improvement by the end of the year, by the process of 1% and 1% and 1% and 1% and 1% extrapolated over the 365. So the way he talks about habits, the way he talks about habit building, habit structuring, environmental design, whether that's, dieting is the easiest example. Hey, not everyone should have to put the cookies away, but sometimes just putting them up in the top of the cupboard out of eyesight is a very good environment designed to limit the chance of eating the cookies and fucking your diet up. Some people, that looks like not buying them in the first place or having them in the house entirely. But there's things you can do to make this successful, and it just takes effort and an understanding of what they may look like that book is a very good place to start for anyone who is trying to figure out anything, whether it's business related, fitness related, life related, any goals you've got. That will help you in setting up plans and structure.
You know what, George? I'm going to buy that book. It's about the 10th time you brought it up. I've heard Lizzie talk about it. I've heard Dean talk about it. I've heard a bunch of people talk about it. I'm buying that book this weekend. I'm going on holidays soon. I'm going to read it when I'm on holidays.
That was one of the bonding points when Liz first spoke to me, and she just asked, she's like, "Oh, do you read? Like, oh, what books have you read then?" Because she knew I'd kind of gone over the subtopic of like, I'm interested in kind of like self-development and shit like that. And the minute I said Atomic Habits, James Clear, she was like, "Ding, I like this guy."
Yeah. All right, I'm getting it, mate. I'm reading it. Look,
Yeah,
I
very.
think to increase your likelihood of success, you need to set realistic goals. You need to be specific. You need to make them achievable. You need to develop a clear plan. You seek support and some sort of accountability. Be patient, and then find enjoyment in the process, in whatever that process goal what might be. If it's a fitness goal, business goal, health goal, family goal, you know, have enjoyment in it. That's my conclusion of that. But guys, remember, keep it going over the year. Take that advice on board. Look at the entire year. Don't make it a short-term plan. Make this as part of your day-to-day life, your everyday being. Whether it's, you know, you're hitting 10K steps every day. Find achievable ways to do that and make it a part of your life. That's the easy way I've put it down. That's what I've done for a long time now. It's just part of my everyday life. Guys, we are the Real Talk Podcast. We have Flex Coach George on Instagram if you want to hit him up. I am Shane_Girdlestone on Instagram. Still taking clients. I know there is a wait list now for Flex Success, but
yep.
If you get on the wait list, if you want to get on board with them, mate, give them the wait list as soon as possible.
And for people who want Shane, hit him up.
Yeah, hit me up, team. I have spots available. I have plenty of spots at the moment, actually. Plenty of spots. It's good. Team, if you've got any questions, hit us up. Happy to have you on. If you want to come on the podcast, happy to have you on the podcast too. But thanks for being here. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you're here with us.